Dear students, I had a pretty happy childhood for a number of reasons. I think it's because as children, we live in the moment, in the present. Also, we're more oblivious to the lack of material things. And when there are negative memories, I think they can be painted with a rosier hue than maybe they were in reality. And I have two examples of that. One, I have these hazy recollections of staying with family friends. And I only realized a few weeks ago that it was because my mom and I didn't have a place to stay. I didn't know when I was a kid that it was not normal to drink powdered milk. We did that the weeks that my parents couldn't afford milk. I also knew that I was fortunate in many ways. Unlike my mom, who chose accounting to ensure she'd always have a job, even though she hated math, I had the luxury of pursuing a college degree and having an education that allowed me to choose my profession, as you do. To me, that was a big responsibility. I didn't want to take it lightly. So I wanted to do something I really loved and was passionate about, journalism. And when I went into journalism, I naturally gravitated toward the stories of people who suffered, who struggled, who were marginalized, stories of people like my mom. How can I amplify their voices and try to produce stories that might improve the world a little bit? Believe it or not, that kind of thinking is what led me to accept one of the most unglamorous beats out there, insurance and utilities in Florida. I realized it was one of the hardest to understand beats that really affected people. It really hit people where it hurts in their pocketbooks. I knew that someone had to be the person to sort of translate the information for people and to really look out for consumers. So as part of the beat, I covered a giant utility called Florida Power and Light. It's kind of like, PG&E or Southern California Edison out here. So I covered FPL and its parent company, Next Era Energy. When a source from the state government called me at one point, this was the summer that I got married, actually. The source called me from the state government, deep throat style, with a juicy tip. It allowed me to break a major story about cozy ties that the utility had with its regulators. And I bulldogged that issue with story after story about the ways in which the utility had formed these close bonds with the group that is supposed to be its watchdog. And this was during the Great Recession of 2007 to 2009, when many consumers were already hurting, and when the utility had proposed what was considered the biggest utility rate hike in Florida at the time, or ever. So, needless to say, the utility was not pleased with my coverage and at times expressed it. And one of the many things that happened during that time that I covered the beat is one of its representatives threatened to stop running ads in our paper. Not to me, they didn't talk to me about this, but to our publisher. And the word kind of trickled down to me. My editor told me not to worry. The publisher was going to back us up on the coverage and supported us. And so my editors and I did not back down. We were ultimately credited in part for the governor ousting 2 regulators and replacing them with consumer-friendly appointments. We were trained to keep the two sides separate, the business side and the news side separate. Still though, like thinking back on it, I wonder if the question was ever in the back of my mind or in my editor's minds. Is our coverage going to cost us ad revenue? Especially because the news business, like everyone else, was struggling at the time. My colleague, a close friend at the time, encountered similar pressure from an advertiser with her investigation of a cruise company. She felt like after that complaint, her lead was adjusted and softened, and it was actually part of the reason she quit. So there you have it. That's my personal experience with what we call the second filter of journalism, what we've been talking about the past week. And those are really the only examples where it has really touched my life or my career as a journalist. And hopefully it stays that way.